What gives a soldier the strength to stand tall amid gunfire? Is it the rifle in his hands? The bulletproof vest on his chest? The training? The tactics? The tools? No. Because when the bullets fly and chaos takes over, metal alone doesn't hold a man together. If it were just the weapon, anyone could be brave. But what good is a weapon without the will to protect? A soldier is not defined by the gear he carries, but by the fire inside his chest, by the loyalty that never breaks, by the heart that keeps beating, even when the odds scream surrender. Because the greatest battles are won long before the trigger is pulled. They are won inside the heart, the place where fear meets duty and chooses to stand. Soldiers are not born to kill. They are not shaped by violence or sculpted for destruction. They are shaped by something far quieter, far stronger. A deep sense of duty, a quiet, stubborn love, a promise whispered in silence. I will protect, even if it costs me everything. Behind every uniform is not just discipline or command, but a heart that chose to serve, to stand when others fall, to give even when it hurts. The strength of a soldier lies not in his weapon, but in his heart. When the ammo runs out, when the reinforcements don't come, when the world goes silent and fear creeps in, what keeps a soldier fighting isn't firepower. It's the fire within. It's the heartbeat that refuses to quit. That is the real strength, the kind no enemy can steal. A weapon can be forged from steel, calibrated with precision, and designed for destruction. But it can never answer the question, why am I fighting? Guns can be handed to anyone. Armor can be worn by anyone. But only the heart decides whether that weapon is used for protection or destruction. The strongest weapon in the world means nothing without a reason behind it. It can defend or it can destroy depending on who holds it, and more importantly, why they hold it. A soldier's strength doesn't begin with the trigger. It begins with a memory, a face, a promise, a silent vow whispered in the dark. I will come back. I must protect. That's why, when you strip away the gear, the training, and the uniform, what's left is not a machine of war, but a human being who fights not out of hate, but out of love. What lives in a soldier's heart is not loud. It doesn't demand medals. It doesn't crave attention. It beats quietly, steadily through fear, exhaustion, and loss. And inside that silent rhythm are the things that truly define him. Loyalty, not just to a flag or a command, but to the person next to him, to the one who stands shoulder to shoulder in the mud, in the cold, in the chaos. Loyalty means never letting go of the bond even when the world falls apart. Love for home. A soldier may carry a weapon, but he also carries the scent of his mother's kitchen, the sound of his daughter's laughter, the image of a porch light that's always left on. He fights not for conquest, but so the world he loves can remain untouched. Brotherhood. He doesn't need to speak. A glance is enough. Because in battle, silence can mean survival. And every action says, I've got you. Sacrifice that no one sees. The nightmares he swallows. The birthdays he misses. The fear he hides just to keep others strong. He bleeds in ways that aren't always visible. And still, he stands. This is why a soldier's strength is unmatched. Because it is built not on what he holds in his hands, but on what he holds in his heart. You don't need to wear a uniform to understand this truth. You don't need to carry a rifle or stand in a battlefield to know what it means to be brave. Because life in its own quiet way asks all of us to become soldiers. Not in war, but in love. Not against enemies, but against despair, fear, and the temptation to give up. There are mothers who rise before dawn, fighting exhaustion just to make sure their children are fed and loved. There are fathers who carry silent burdens on their shoulders, never complaining, just showing up every single day. There are friends who stay through the darkest storms, never asking for anything, only choosing to be there. And there's you, standing your ground when everything in you wants to run, choosing compassion when anger would be easier, choosing hope when you have every reason to give up. That is strength. Not in what you own, not in how loud you are, but in what you choose to protect with all your heart. Because at the end of it all, true power is not about dominating the world, but about what you refuse to let this world take away from you. Sometimes, the truest measure of strength doesn't echo through battlefield victories or medals pinned to uniforms. It reveals itself in the silence between gunshots, in the decision to run toward danger instead of away from it, in a moment where one man's heart becomes stronger than any armor he wears. This is not a story about a superhero. It's a story about a soldier, a man who proved that courage isn't forged in steel, but in loyalty, compassion, and love. Ty Carter, 2012, Afghanistan. In the rugged terrain of Afghanistan, where danger hides in every shadow, Staff Sergeant Ty Carter served with the U.S. Army's 61st Cavalry Regiment. It was 2012, and Ty was stationed at Combat Outpost Keating, one of the most remote and vulnerable bases in the entire region, surrounded by steep mountains, exposed on all sides. It was a place where fear was a constant companion, and bravery a daily necessity. But on one particular day, October 3rd, the base came under an assault that would later be called one of the bloodiest in the Afghan war. Over 300 Taliban fighters launched a coordinated ambush from the surrounding hills, pouring down relentless firepower on just 53 American soldiers. Ty Carter was one of them, and what he did next would redefine the meaning of courage born from the heart. As the morning sun rose over the cliffs, chaos erupted like thunder across the outpost. Machine guns rattled, mortars exploded, and dust choked the air. Within minutes, soldiers were pinned down, injured, bleeding scattered behind fragments of cover. In the middle of this hellish storm was Ty Carter. He could have stayed behind the protection of the barracks. He could have waited for the enemy fire to slow. But then he saw him, Specialist Stephen Mace, one of his brothers in arms, lying wounded and exposed in the open kill zone. Bullets tore through the air around him. No cover, no backup, just one man, bleeding out in the gravel, calling for help. And in that moment, Ty didn't think about himself. He didn't calculate odds. He didn't wait for orders. He ran out of the bunker, into the hail of gunfire, straight into death's grasp for someone else. And that was only the beginning. Ty Carter sprinted across the open yard under relentless fire, not once, but multiple times. The first time, he reached Mace, dragged him to what little cover he could find, and used his own body to shield him from incoming rounds. He tore a cloth into strips to stop the bleeding, whispered calm into Mace's terrified eyes, and with hands shaking and heart pounding, began the longest 2 hours of his life. 2 hours pinned down, without morphine, without backup, with death whispering from every direction. Yet Ty never left Mace's side. When another wave of gunfire struck near, he moved again, lifted his wounded brother onto his back, and ran once more through the kill zone to safety. He was hit. He bled. But he didn't stop. Because what drove Ty forward wasn't just duty. It wasn't training. It was something deeper. A promise etched into every soldier's soul. You don't leave your brother behind. That promise, born not of orders, but of heart, was stronger than fear, pain, or even death itself. And that's where true strength lives. Not in the metal in your hand, but in the fire in your chest. In the love that says, I would die for you, and I'll live for you too. After the battle, when the bullets had stopped flying and the ground no longer shook beneath his boots, Ty Carter was asked the inevitable question, why did you do it? Why did you run into the fire? Again and again. He didn't give a long speech. He didn't mention medals or orders or headlines. He simply said, because I couldn't leave him there. My heart wouldn't let me. It wasn't strategy. It wasn't glory. It wasn't even survival. It was loyalty. The kind born in foxholes, not classrooms. It was love. The kind that grows when two people have stared death in the face together. It was honor. The quiet kind that doesn't seek recognition, only to do what is right. And in that moment, the world understood something. That the heart of a soldier isn't hardened by war. It is tempered by love for their brothers, their homeland, and the unshakable belief that no one gets left behind. We often look at soldiers and admire their strength from afar. The medals, the uniforms, the stories of courage carved into history. But the real strength isn't worn on the chest. It beats quietly in the chest. It's the kind of strength that doesn't roar, it endures. You don't need to wear camouflage to carry that kind of strength. You don't need to face bullets to prove your bravery. If you've ever stood your ground when it was easier to walk away, if you've ever protected someone you love even when it cost you, if you've ever chosen kindness when the world gave you every reason to be cold, then you too have a soldier's heart, because strength isn't about power, it's about purpose. Weapons may break, armor may fail, but the strength in your heart, when it comes from love, loyalty, and faith, is the one thing no one can ever take away. If you're someone who's still standing today, not because you're the strongest, but because your heart simply refuses to give up. If you've protected something or someone without expecting recognition, if you've carried invisible weight without complaint, then this message is for you. Leave a comment in the comments. As a quiet salute from one fighter to another, not for attention, but as a signal, my heart is still in this fight. And if you feel this story touched a part of you, I invite you to subscribe to USM Soldier's Memory. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we honor hearts, we remember courage, we carry on together.